Little one is messaging us about the start of the next match, so we will be able to set that up right now.
Yes, we will, and I believe that we are going to be on Metalopolis as our opening map.
Excellent first starting round match. And see, there's the hug. Oh, man. Oh, that's right. Everyone loves when the bros hug it out before a match.
And you know the Liquid guys last night, got a chance to just see them. They're all doing their little team powwow, and part of me in my head is just thinking that can't be the easiest thing. You train so much with these guys, you're sitting on the sideline, you're rooting them off, and then suddenly it's like, all right, we must do battle to the death. One of us will be eliminated.
That's always an extremely awkward 15 minutes where you win a game against someone you're really close to, such as a teammate or a brother, by circumstance sometimes, and that is one of the hardest things. But both these players are so well-mannered. You know that no matter what happens, the other player is going to be rooting on the other one. Now, for the record, I think that at almost no point in the tournament was a Team Liquid player eliminated by anyone other than a Team Liquid player. EGN Control did manage to take out Liquid Nazgul, and HeyPro did fall a little bit early in the losers bracket, but I mean, it seems like Liquids are the only ones that can take out Liquids.
Yeah, it's kind of funny like that, and when you think about it, it's an interesting thing to say, Dave, because how much? Well, let me do that. I mean, you intimately know the weaknesses, you intimately know the strengths of your opponent, and honestly, I think that was pretty evident with that TLO, with that Jinro Rhett match, that, Rhett looked completely different versus some of the other players that he played. And you've got to imagine that Jinro is very, very familiar with his style, with his strengths, with his weaknesses, and this could be a similar situation. Now, in this particular matchup, TLO, who has been over in Korea at the Liquid and OGS house, Huk is getting ready to go out there, but hasn't necessarily maybe had that same experience versus TLO, getting to play some of those games. So, whether or not that will actually be a contributing factor to this matchup, I do not know. But also with TLO switching to Zerg fairly recently, although everyone has seen some of his amazing replays from even back in the beta, that's even kind of an unknown.
Yeah, and the one thing to note about these two players, they practice with each other a lot, and most importantly, these players know how to practice. These are the sort of players who understand the value of repetition, who understand the value of scoping strategies down, saying something like, can you early expand 10 games in a row? I only want to work against early expanding. And then you say, sure. And then afterwards, they say, all right, now what do you want me to do? And then you say, okay, I want you to just drop me 10 games in a row. And they do a lot of drilling out all sorts of strategies. And then they go take it to ladder or to random players and to test it out against that new sort of variance. And that is really the key way to practice. It's not about the number of hours you put in. It's about how deliberate you are. And it looks like, oh my God, are both players ready to go?
They are. Are you guys ready for Championship Sunday to kick off here? A losers bracket matchup between LiquidTLO and LiquidHuk. We are going live with our first map, Metalopolis. And what a matchup. What a matchup to
absurd. We've seen so many Liquid versus Liquid battles. Liquid Rhett against LiquidHuk. Rhett making that look one-sided, but of course both of them dead even in the losers right now. LiquidTLO getting a little bit farther in the winners before dropping down, but again, everything's on an even playing field on Metalopolis, a map that really both players are going to be quite comfortable on. And ooh, I think that we're going to be in for a treat as we are cross-map with LiquidHuk, the higher-seeded red Protoss, in the left position, and in the right position, we see that TLO is the lower-seeded blue Zerg, and LiquidHuk, of course. These players, such good friends, such great teammates.
And if you hear the laughing in the background, of course, we get a message that Huk said he's going to hurt the guy that said, go TLO in the background. TLO said, whoa, BM.
Yeah, and Huk will probably beat him to death with his pillow that he sits on while he plays.
Blunt object, indeed.
Looks like that first scouting probe is heading out by Huk. Huk, of course, well known for not just being an extremely strong and consistent Protoss, but also for being somewhat of an entertainer in his matches.
Since we're in the early game here, Sean, a little bit of insight because you're playing against your teammate, and do you ever just have to say this guy is just another guy? You know, I'm just playing another. You can't. I mean, I gotta imagine it's not that good to just say I'm playing TLO. It's just this is another match.
Yeah, that is one of the most important skills that good gamers can do, is to dissociate their knowledge of the player with their knowledge of what the race can do. You shouldn't be thinking to yourself, well, what would TLO do? You need to say to yourself, well, what can Zerg get away with? Because if you're against someone like QXC, who's super aggressive, you can sometimes convince yourself, oh no, I'm going to be attacked at any point. But if you were playing against QXC and you didn't know it was him, a lot of times you would play even better. So it's so important that you don't let your knowledge of the player psych yourself out. The best of the best of the best can use that knowledge to their advantage, but it is so, so hard. And it looks like the little one is getting cannon rushed. Uh-oh.
Yeah, actually, we saw the gateway go ahead and get canceled there, so he could put down these 2 forward pylons. He has now trapped this hatchery. Drones are going at it, and the crowd goes wild. These 2 pylons will finish. One of them shields down, and when the amount of minerals comes out, and oh, here he says, TLO says that this pylon's going to die. I think he's right. Here comes the cannon. Drones will go ahead and do it. He'll drop 1, 2.
He doesn't have 100 minerals. He needs to try to get out. No, he will get surrounded. And it looks like he's building a pylon just because he's trying to continue to constrict motion here. And it looks like the little one is going to be able to repel this cannon rush with only drones. Oh my god, the spawning pool is done. And no lings being produced from the little one. He says, no, drones are fine. Drones are the counter to cannons. I saw it in a spreadsheet.
And TLO handles that very nicely. Just a perfect amount of drones to go down there. Again, seeing that not panicking is such a crucial skill to have. He had just the right amount of units to take care of that. And now the big question is can we get a suitable transition from Huck out of that particular rush?
And that is such a key point you bring up, Wheat. Transitioning is the key. Doesn't matter how good or bad your cannon rush goes, if you do not have a planned next step, you are doomed. Now, if this were the original Starcraft and it was the year 1998, Huck would probably be thinking, well, maybe I can just put cannons here, and then maybe put some more cannons here and cannon rush him again. But fortunately, we are in the top 12 of MLG and SC2, and Huck is doing a double gateway block so he can get this cannon up and early expand.
We do have the first Zerglings going out. And, of course, they are going to be met with that front wall, so buying a little bit of time. Now, the one thing is that, you know, Zerg early game going to cut some corners, get that economy up, but once they get to that point, they really can start whipping out a lot of units. And, he managed to get into the base.
Oh, man. I think Huck is going to be aware that that is not a solid wall off. Will likely re-wall with an additional pylon there. No planting the cybernetics core. Now, this is interesting. We do have 3 gateways out right now for Huck, and it looks like he's beginning to produce zealots. Wow. So probably going to be an extremely aggressive mass zealot opening. Going to be even getting the fast +1 there so he can have the Zergling killers. Again, with the +1 zealots kill lings in 2 hits instead of 3. And gosh, it is so cool to see these 2 players play.
Yeah, it is. We've got TLO taking the gold base here in the middle. He feels comfortable enough. He obviously knows that Huck is not going to have any sort of large army to I mean, even at this point, scouting to that position, he's got to worry so much about the front and the fear that who knows, a stream of lings could come in here just based off the fact that there's 1 cannon and just a few units. We do have Warp Gate in production. These 2 Zerglings are going to come around and take and chew a little bit on that pylon, but he's getting a great look at what we've got here, what he can do, what his plans of attacks could be.
So smart in this positioning that we see Huck in, and I just absolutely love this move to the very fast 3 gate. Very unusual, but clearly massing up a good bit of zealots and sentries, and again that key +1. We see TLO getting a queen up specifically for the purpose of spreading creep around the map. honestly, it doesn't matter what you're really asking TLO. He just generally says the counter is having a lot of creep. We even see that there's just one gas geyser in the main and one at the expansion. Drones now getting transferred to this center area, and most importantly of all, vision for TLO controlling both Xel'Naga watchtowers.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at the rush that Huck attempted to do, it really. Oh, and here we have TLO gonna go in through the back, and he's going to get a really good look at everything that's here. And he already saw everything that was in the front, but here we have Huck now moving out with a force of several zealots and a few sentries. You can hear his warp gates opening right now. He's going to make his way down. What could be interesting is that if he takes out the Zergling and gets vision, he's going to be able to see that there is indeed this gold up, and he just sees it flash there momentarily, and now he's going to make his way in, puts a pylon down to support some units, and goes in for the attack.
And it looks like, oh, very nice force field, cutting some of those Zerglings up, but LiquidTLO does find a little hole to sneak out of Huck. Oh, plants a brilliant force field, cutting those units off and pulling the weakened zealot to the back. Very nice control, but those roaches popping up in the nick of time, but LiquidHuk sees those roaches and is now warping in a ton of stalkers to push up. That Spinecrawler needs to finish a nice transfuse, but not in time to save the queen. And oh, the Spinecrawler is going to fall, and TLO's gold steel is not going to work.
Yeah, it's not going to work, despite the fact that roaches were coming out, maybe a few more out for TLO in a better position. He might have been able to stop that, but some great force fields from Huck. And then, of course, the big key to that battle is those stalkers coming in and reinforcing. We will see this hatchery go down. Meanwhile, we are getting +1 carapace. Here come the roaches. They're not going to push in quite yet, although I do think they could probably take this number of stalkers. Of course, with the force field and the energy on the sentries, he just doesn't want to make any sort of silly mistakes, choosing his battles very wisely, and we've got a lot more roaches coming out right now.
And look at this, Huck adding on gateways 6 and 7. Don't forget, a big reason that attack work is because +1 attack is finished, and it looks like a lot of roaches out for TLO, but does he have a layer? He does, but no speed. He's advancing forward, picking off one unit. We've seen him have great roach control before, and they're picking off all the zealots. Force field's going down right now. Transfuse to keep one of those roaches alive. And uh-oh, Huck may have gone a little bit too far into enemy territory. The sentries are going to fall. It is just stalkers, and Huck manages to find an escape route. If he lost those, that would be a classic misstep we've seen Huck do many times before. Get in too deep and lose everything.
And he's going to continue to just poke with these stalkers together in that group. They can do a lot of damage there. He's going to pick off one here, one there. He knows that they don't have speed yet. And then actually, we're seeing shields come out from Huck. Don't see that super often. We've also got speed coming out for the roaches. A few more lings coming out, but the stalker numbers are starting to get pretty high. But also, TLO's roach numbers also getting high. TLO did take the expansion as well. It is 3. Does not know about it quite yet.
Yeah, it looks like Huck is spending a little bit too much time microing around here, and getting a little bit pinned off, and there's going to go down a huge number of stalkers. Losing any stalkers at this point is big, and but Huck answers by killing that center